right, guys. As you know, Peter is the regular writer on the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man title. He's been doing it for more than a year. And Peter, just kind of talk a bit about your thoughts on the book after the pros and cons. What do you think?
Well, I really feel that I'm finally getting my footing on the book. It took a few issues that had some bumps and bruises along the way, storylines that got derailed or heavily influenced because of events that were occurring in the other Spidey titles.
Right.
I mean, I had developed the concept of Peter Parker staying on as a teacher at Midtown High. I mean, I wasn't the one who put him there initially. Straczynski was.
Right.
But I thought that I would really focus on that, bring back Flash Thompson, do stories that centered at the high school, really kind of try to underscore the whole neighborhood aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that got kneecapped by the reveal of his identity.
Mm-hmm.
Little things like that.
Just minor plot twists.
Various villains and characters that I want to use were taken off the table, so for a variety of reasons.
Right.
So for a few issues, I kind of found myself sort of just treading water, or just trying to come up with stuff as I faded, 10 yards and punted, because particular storylines that I wanted to do and that I planned to do, I had to put off in order to match up with the timing of Civil War and the unmasking.
Right.
All things that I really had not been expecting when I first started on the series. On the other hand, in the words of Super Chicken, I knew the job was dangerous when I took it. So I'm not complaining so much as just simply stating as unabashedly and straightforwardly as I can that I really feel it's only been since around the Mysterio story arc that we've really started to get the book to where I want it to be, and now I'm extremely satisfied with the direction that the book is in and the current status quo.
Right. And talk a bit about, you're a writer during one of the biggest changes in Spider-Man's history. He revealed his identity to the world. I mean, what's that? What's your thoughts on that? I mean, you've been reading Spider-Man since you were a kid, I imagine, just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on revealing to the world?
Well, my attitude is, oh, good, story opportunities. I mean, when it's really no more involved than that. When you're doing a character who's been around for 4 decades, there is the creeping sense that no matter what you do, there's going to be a sense of deja vu. I mean, it could be argued that to a certain degree we've been spinning our wheels since Amazing Spider-Man 33. The climax of the Master Planner story. Right. A sequence, where Spidey lifts the hunk of junk off himself and gets the cure to Aunt May and feels good about himself for the first time. I really feel that since then, everything that we've been doing is, to a certain degree, more of the same. And, the first real shakeup was, since that time, was Peter getting married. Right. And since then, again, you can very easily fall into this sense of samishness. So the concept that he's gone public with his identity, well, at least it opens up a plethora of new directions and new story angles for us to approach. So, good. Exactly. Something new for us to explore.
I guess the average fan is kind of worried that this is going to be turned around in, say, a year or two, kind of like Aunt May. She dies and then she gets better and stuff like that. What thoughts on that? I mean, from
is that possible? Sure, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's comics. Anything is possible.
Exactly.
So I mean,
if you can,
I would love to be able to say, no, that could never happen. But come on. I mean, of course it could.
If you accept a guy that can stick to a wall, you're in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah, pretty much. And if Marvel ever does, the thing is that anything that Marvels do, there's going to be people who are going to scream and protest, and there's going to be people who say hooray. I mean, if Marvel ever does a storyline in which we undo the revelation, however we would choose to do it, there's going to be people who shout hooray, and there's going to be people who are going to cry foul. And that's just the way it goes. I mean, nobody Nobody can get into this industry and think for a moment that you can make everybody happy, because it's just impossible.
But the key is everybody's talking about the book and Spider-Man, so that's what they want ideally. So.
Yeah.
Guys, but you guys are awful quiet. Do you want to ask some Peter David questions about these topics we've talked about so far?
I'm just kind of listening to the man talk. It's enough for me.
Literally a fly on the wall. JR, anything to discuss about the ID and the pros and cons of the first year of Friendly Neighborhood?
No, not right now. Although
we could be wrapping this sucker up in 20 minutes.
I will say I think I was one of the few that actually liked the 2211 Spider-Man thing, because
you're the one.
I'm a sucker. I'm not a big fan of Spidey and sci-fi stories, but I'm a sucker for time travel and parallel universe stories.
Well, you know what's. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and there seemed to be like a lot left on the table when I wasn't a big fan of the 2099 line, but it just seemed there was a lot still left on the table, like the identity of the Green Goblin, who I believe Peter intended to be Father Jennifer, and it just seemed there were still a few unexplored roads to take, and then, Spider-Man, the regular titles by the guy who originally wrote the 2099 title seemed to be a logical way to go. So,
well, I mean, you see here the 2211 storyline developed out of two things. Number one, I'd want to do the Mysterio storyline, but because of the reveal of his identity, I wound up having to push that back for a few issues, to say nothing of the fact that I also had to delay it for a few months because Mysterio was just being used in the finally completed Black Cat storyline, and we didn't want to have Mysterio back-to-back, so I had to find something to do for 3 months to push that off. And I wanted to have Spider-Man 2099 guest star. I wanted to do a future-oriented story, but Spider-Man 2099 was running around in Exiles.
Right.
So, you start going with the process of elimination. Well, saying, okay, well, I can't do this, I can't do that. What can I do? And I wanted to do something that was going to be major in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, that would get people talking, that would at least get, to some degree, as much attention as the Spider-Man unmasking. And the concept of having Uncle Ben show up at the end of Aunt May's date with Jarvis seemed like an interesting way to go. I think, what the hell? Why not? Let's do this. And it seems to me that fan objections to the Uncle Ben storyline or the storyline involving the Mexican wrestler seem to stem not from the quality of the story themselves, so much as that they just bitch about the idea. Oh, Spider-Man's involved with a Mexican wrestler. That's dumb. Well, I personally don't think so. I think Mexican wrestlers are cool. And sure, we have so many Hispanic characters running around the Marvel Universe, so God knows why we would need a Mexican character running around. That's so dumb. We have so many. So many Mexican characters. And the concept of doing an alternate version, an alternate timeline Uncle Ben, I feel like they're just bitching about the concept rather than the story or its execution. I see almost no complaints about the execution of the story itself. They just seem to crab about the idea. But if we were doing an alternate universe Uncle Ben in an issue of Exiles, people will go, "Oh, well, that's really cool."
Yeah.
Which I have to admit, I really don't comprehend. I mean, when I did a storyline in Captain Marvel that involved Spider-Man 2099 and the Maestro, people crabbed about it and complained that it was just navel gazing on my part, and I was just recycling my own ideas. They did a storyline in Exiles involving the Maestro and Spider-Man 2099 and Justice. It was, sort of like, a Peter David's greatest hit storyline. People loved it. And I'm sitting there going, okay, am I just being held to a different standard, or what the hell's going on here?
Man, you can't win. It's back to that same point. You can't please all the fans all the time.
Oh, absolutely,
so
absolutely. So at any rate, so that's where the 2211 storyline came from. It was my answer to the unmasking, because hey, let's bring back Uncle Ben, shake people up, at least for a few issues.
Another topic. Oh, go ahead. I'm
And
sorry.
we can't do Spider-Man 2099. Well, you know what? I do have Spider-Man 2211 running around from the that old one shot that I did
right.
with the two Spider-Mans.
Right.
And it broke me up because I had the retcon bombs in that, and people Thank you. And people complained that I ripped it off from an issue of She-Hulk, and I'm going, dude, I did it in 1994. What do you want from me?
kind of along the same line, what's the differences back, when you were writing Spectacular Spider-Man as opposed to the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man? What's some differences from the 80s until now? It sounds like the Rubik's Cube that you have to coordinate with so many different people is mainly a big difference.
Yeah, I don't know that there's that much difference. It seems to me that the biggest difference is that the tone and style of the three books that were coming out at the time were far more clearly delineated. Amazing Spider, at least when I was involved in writing, Amazing Spider-Man was the traditional fun Spider-Man book, and Spec Spidey was supposed to be the dark, serious kind of Hill Street Blues type book. That's why we always have the credits at the very end with white printing on black to evoke the ending of Hill Street Blues. And Web of Spider-Man was going to involve travel. There was going to be Peter Parker going to all kinds of different places. So there were three very, very, very different in tone and style and story content. Now, with the three core books that exist, I'm not quite as clear as to what the editorially mandated differences are. I know what the writers seem to be coming up with, but there doesn't seem to be quite as clear an editorial mandate as to what we're going for in each of the books. Plus, now you've got Ultimate Spider-Man in the mix, and you've got Marvel Adventures Spider-Man in the mix.
Right.
And all
he's
these
spread
other
out a lot more than he was back in the day, in my opinion. He's 5 or 6 titles he's in.
Yeah, he is. Also, the other big difference is that his non-superpowered supporting cast seems to have become greatly diminished.
Right.
He's become much more. The Avengers have become his supporting cast, and how the hell can you have the Avengers be someone's supporting cast?
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. So that's why in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, I've been making more of an effort to bring back the more traditional supporting cast members. Flash Thompson, Betty. I've reached into the mists of the past and brought back Deb Whitman. That kind of thing.
Right. That was actually leading him to my next question about the lack of supporting cast.
Okay.
Is Deb Whitman, you think she's going to be around after this arc, or I guess you can't?
She does show up on the phone in an upcoming issue. I am probably going to bring her back in short order because what the hell, we introduced her, and the fan response seems to be pretty good. So maybe we'll have her stick around for a few more issues.
As a fan myself, one of the things I really miss is the interaction at the Daily Bugle, with J. Jonah and Robbie and everything. Any plans with that? I know you're trying to tackle the supporting cast a little bit more, but any plans for J. Jonah?
Well, I have done some stuff with them.
Right.
I mean, Jonah featured very heavily in the Mexican wrestler storyline.
Right.
He did show up at the end of the Vulture storyline. Whether I'm going to be doing something that centers at the Daily Bugle, I'm not entirely sure. Right. I mean, part of it, of course, is that Peter is our entryway into these other venues, and I don't think that Peter can exactly go strolling into the Daily Bugle with pictures for Spider-Man these days. Right. But that's one of the reasons that I reintroduced Betty Brant, so that we can have the option of switching over to the Daily Bugle and have things that happen there matter, because if Betty Brant's involved actively in the storyline for Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, then we can do stuff at the Bugle and have it matter to the ongoing storyline in a way other than that we're just playing Jonah Jameson for comedy relief.
Right. Also, Liz Allen. We haven't seen Liz Allen in a while either.
Well, there's so many freaking females we're going to bring into this book. I mean, come on. We got Deb. We got Betty. I don't have anything I'm doing with
throw
Liz.
Felicia in there too while you're at it.
Well, Felicia's a whole nother bag of donuts.
Yeah, we don't want your book to be delayed any. I think she might be a curse. Also,
pretty much. Whenever I bring in Felicia Hardy, I'm then fired off a book. So we'll probably want to stay away from her.
Was that in Spectacular? Is that what happened?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I don't think it was really connected to her. But yeah, when I was fired off of Spec Spidey, it was shortly after I finished up with Felicia. She went away, then I went away. It's like, oh well, I'm just going to bring her back anytime.
She is bad luck, I tell you.
Yeah, really.
I mean, if you introduce her, keep her.
Yeah,
please.
Keep her in. Also, you're writing the Spider-Man 3 movie novelization.
Already written it, yeah.
Yep, you've probably been sworn to secrecy.
Absolutely. I signed a non-disclosure agreement.
Can you, in the broadest of terms, can you say how it stacks up on paper against the other two movies?
I could, but it doesn't mean anything. Because if there's one thing that I've realized, it's that you absolutely cannot judge the film based on the script. You just can't.
Right.
I mean, I learned that years ago when I read 2 screenplays for upcoming summer movies because I was going to be doing comic book adaptations of the both of them. I wound up only doing one, as it turned out, but based purely on the scripts, I was convinced that The Rocketeer was going to be the smash hit of the summer, and that Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, was going to sink without a trace. And it was the exact opposite. So when I read the screenplay for the first Spider-Man movie, I felt like it was just knocked out of the park. I had every conviction. When I read the script for the second film, I had some trepidation because my concern was that it seemed to me as if the script for Spider-Man 2 essentially hit all the same emotional beats as the first film, that there was absolutely no new ground being covered, and the only difference was that at the end, Mary Jane stayed with him, that he gets the girl rather than losing her. So it was all the emotional beats of the first Spider-Man film except for the end. Right. And that concerned me. But, the film came out and people loved it, and they loved all the action scenes with Dr. Octopus, and they loved that Peter and Mary Jane were together at the end. And absolutely no reviews that I read commented on the fact that it was all the same emotional beats. Either they didn't notice, or they noticed but absolutely didn't give a crap. So, I will say this, speaking, as broadly as I can, that the third film doesn't suffer from, to my mind, the problems of the second, which apparently were problems only to me. It really plumbs new territory for Peter Parker and for Spider-Man.
Of the two movies, which one did you prefer, 1 or 2?
Well, I liked 1 for the reasons that I stated. It was new. It was very faithful to the book. I thought the second one was technically dazzling. I thought that Dr. Octopus was, I thought that the actor was great, and I thought that the effects were really impressive. But overall, I liked the first one better. Right. But, I thought they were both very strong.
Yeah. All right, my last question, I'm going to turn over to the fellas for their question. Just talk a bit, Peter, about the interaction of your fans online. They can do it through email, through podcasts like this one, through your webpage. What's your thoughts on that? It's putting the fans and the creators a little bit closer together, I think. Right.
Well, there's good and bad aspects to it, as with all things in life. There was something to be said about having a veil between the fans and the and the creators, and there was something to be said about everything being a surprise. The example that I use these days, and I've used it before, but what the hell, I'll use it again, is that when I was a kid, I read Amazing. I was a Spider-Man reader, and I read Amazing Spider-Man number 100. Do you remember what happened at the end of Amazing Spider-Man number 100?
Right, with the extra arms.
Right.
Right.
Now, when I read that as a kid, my reaction was, oh my God, he has 4 extra arms. Holy crap! What the hell is going to happen now? How will he be able to hide this from Gwen? How's it going to be, oh my Lord, what's going to happen? And I was freaked. Because, to my mind, this was just the most amazing development ever. whopping web snappers, kids. Spidey's got 4 extra arms. How's he going to get out of this one? Tune in next month, true believers.
Everyone's a pretty good Stan.
Well, anybody. Stanley's like Ethel Merman. Anyone can do a Stan impression. Anyone can do Stan. Anyone can do Merman. It's that kind of thing. Anyone can do a Stan impression. My 4-year-old could do a Stan impression. It's not that big a trick. And that to me was the magic of comics. Mm-hmm. And the internet and the fan interaction, to some degree, to a huge degree, finishes that. Because if that were happening now, and I were a kid reading comic books now, and I was on the internet now, I would know 3 months ahead of time that was going to be happening. Yeah. And I would have been subject to 3 months of fans declaring that it's the dumbest thing that's ever happened, that it is monumentally stupid, that there's no way that Spider-Man could just grow 4 additional arms. Where's he getting the muscle mass, the bone, the tissue, the blood? It's impossible. That there's no way that this is going to last, that this is going to last maybe an issue or 2, at most, and then it's going to go back to what it was. And boy, isn't Marvel dumb, and isn't Marvel stupid? And there's every likelihood that there would be that the creators of the book would be coming in and saying, "Will you please at least freaking read the thing before making any kind of judgment? What the hell is wrong with you people?" And the fans would be responding, "What's wrong is that we hate what you've done with the book, and you're ruining it," and so on and so forth, and yada yada. And people wonder why younger fans aren't reading comics. Yeah. Maybe it's because they know too freaking much. Maybe it's because they hear too freaking much. Yeah.
What you gonna do?
Well, so I mean, is that the only reason that fewer people are reading comics? No, of course not. Fewer people are reading everything. Sales are down in comics. Sales are down in magazines. Sales are down on books. Fewer people are reading. That's just a fact. Yeah. But it ain't helping. It is sure not helping. Now, the positive aspect, of course, is that you do get feedback from the readers, and every so often it's intelligent, which always helps. And you can also use the internet to get word out about projects, story developments that you would not have been able to before.
That's true. There's pros and cons.
There's pros and cons. The thing that I've really noticed about the internet, and the thing that fascinates me, is that when people bitch up one side and down another about a storyline, I sit there and I go, okay, smells like a hit. If, on the other hand, they rave about it, I feel a cold chill at the base of my spine. Because I'm the owner of more reviews that say, this book is fantastic, why isn't it selling better, than probably any other writer in the industry, right? So there is this gargantuan disconnect between what sells in the real world and what people on the internet like and think that should be selling. It's not like this is limited to comic books. Again, I mean, if the internet were the final arbiter of or reflective of what happens in the real world, then there would be exactly one mutant book being published, and it would be a moderate seller. Why The Last Man would be selling 250,000 copies, and Snakes on a Plane would have made $400 million.
And Tom DeFalco would be a hit writer with Spider-Girl also.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just insane.
Well, JR, I'm hit Peter David up with some of your questions that you've prepared.
Okay. Well, let's see if I can get through this first part without sounding like a complete and total suck-up. But I was always a big fan of Peter's classic Star Trek comics. I'm a classic Star Trek fan. There were 2 that really stuck out in my mind, and they were both on the second DC run. Okay. The first was the story where a young security guard recently assigned to the Enterprise is killed saving Captain Kirk's life.
Funny story about
eulogy
that one.
for him, and
Funny
he finds
story
out
about that one.
Yeah, and he finds out that he doesn't have a clue who this young man was.
Yeah.
And I really like that one. And then in the trial of Captain Kirk, when Sarek tells Spock about, he notices, his friendship with Kirk and McCoy, and he asks him, well, Spock, how do you define a friend? And Spock does it, and it was really cool, and it ends by saying a friend is someone who can call you a pointy-eared hobgoblin, and still you trust him with your soul. So
yes. I can actually write. The funny thing about the one, the funny thing about the one that you're mentioning,
Save time and skip the waiting room with Freeman Urgent Care's online check-in tool, Save My Spot. Now you can save your spot in line from any smartphone, tablet, or desktop with just a few clicks or taps. It's free, fast, convenient, and best of all, saves you time. Check in from anywhere on any device. Plan your visit on your schedule. Choose from our 2 locations based on proximity or for the best time for you. We're in Joplin or Webb City. You can wait in the comfort of your home, not in the urgent care waiting room. Freeman Urgent Care's Save My Spot for your convenience.
the one about the young security guard who dies. Interesting little anecdote about that. That was my last issue of Star Trek, as it turned out. And what happened was that the issue before that one, I was getting increasing flack from a Paramount representative who shall go nameless, Richard Arnold, who was coming up with new and more elaborate, insane reasons to reject. I'm not saying he was insane, but the reasons were to reject the stories that I was coming up with, up to and including we can't do the storyline about Kirk having a girlfriend because Kirk is no longer interested in women. That was one of my personal favorites.
That is crazy.
And there was one story that he rejected completely and would not let DC do because he said there was too much violence in it. And all the violence had taken place off-panel. And I felt like I couldn't do more. I couldn't do more to have something non-violent than not show it, but he said there was too much violence. So I wrote that security guard episode. I wrote that security guard issue as a test to see whether it was the stories or whether it was me. And I made sure to put far more on-panel violence in that story than in the previous, 6 issues combined. And I wrote in a different type style and a different formatting, and I signed a fake name to it. And Bob Greenberger sent it off to Richard Arnold saying, well, we're going to be getting a fill-in for this issue. We're going to do a fill-in writer. What do you think of this story? And Richard approved the story without any requirements for changes. And that's the point that's the point at which I knew that was it. That was my last issue of Star Trek because this was just getting ridiculous. Interesting little point of information. The fake name that I attached to the story was Robert Bruce Banner. Well, I figured I'd be sporting about it, but naturally he didn't get it.
Man, what a dick.
Well, he apparently you're not the only one he treated that way. I think Margaret, and I'm going to butcher her name horribly, Margaret Wander Bonono.
Margaret Wander Bonanno.
No, thank you.
Margaret Longer Bonono. I like it.
Well, I told you I was going to butcher it.
Margaret Wander Bonanno.
Okay. She wrote what was originally Probe. And it was originally titled.
Well, Probe's a whole nother story. I mean,
yeah.
Probe is Probe.
If you mention him by name, but it's clearly him she's talking about. So
yeah, Probe was just a living freaking nightmare. I mean, if you want to just watch Star Trek editors shudder to this day, just mention the word Probe around them and they'll go, like that.
Jerry, got any other questions?
Just one real quick question is, should Captain Kirk have died the way he did in Generations, and should they bring him back and kind of put salve on that old wound that's plaguing a lot of us old classic fans?
There's no way he should have died in that. I mean, there's no freaking way. I mean, this
very good.
He gets killed as the result of the machinations of some villain that nobody ever heard of, saving some planet that nobody gives a crap about. No, not so much. I mean, although at least the way that he died in the film as released was better than what they originally had.
Yeah, they had him shot in the back.
Yeah, originally they just shoot him in the back,
right. And
they did that in test screenings, and the test screening audience said, no freaking way. And, I mean, to me, the delineation between Kirk and Picard was underscored by this when Soren is starting to cross the bridge and he stops and you see that Picard is on the other side of the bridge waiting for him, blocking his path. The audience reaction was, and my theater was not alone in this, the audience reaction when Picard is facing him was kind of like a polite, oh, well, I wonder what's going to happen now, right? When Soren started to cross the bridge and stopped and Kirk was waiting for him, there was a thunderous ovation because the reaction was, all right, Soren's getting his ass kicked now. Kirk's here. That's it. Hey, Malcolm McDowell, you should have stayed playing polite time travelers. You know, because you are going down, my friend. So, you know,
no doubt.
And indeed, Kirk did in fact kick his ass. I mean, this is a guy who can bitch slap Klingons and make them cry for their motto. You think he can't take out Malcolm McDowell? You might as well be fighting Roddy McDowell. I mean, he's still going to.
Wow. On that note, Spidey Dude, what's your questions for Peter?
Well, no Star Trek ones, unfortunately. I have several, but I'll try to keep them brief.
Okay.
My first question is what do you see most in yourself with Peter Parker, the character?
Oh, that's a Star Trek question? Okay, that could be.
That's not a Star Trek question.
Oh, okay. What do I see most in Peter Parker in myself, aside from the fact that we have the same first name?
Oh, we're on the same thought process.
Yeah, really. And we both have, last names that can work as first names also.
Oh,
right?
There you go.
Hey.
Yeah.
I suppose
I
suppose what we share and what I like so much about the character, at least in terms of having an affinity for him, is the fundamental sense of insecurity. That no matter how well things are going, there's always something in the back of our mutual minds that say, it can't last, it's too good, something's going to go wrong. In my case, it probably stems from, in Peter's case, I think it comes from his original sin, that because he failed to stop the burglar from killing, because he failed to stop the burglar who then later killed his Uncle Ben, I think he fundamentally believes that he's not deserving of true happiness, that he really feels that sooner or later something's got to go wrong because he is eternally cursed, that he can never fully expiate his original sin. In my case, it's because I'm a middle-aged neurotic Jew. But it still really stems from, but we still have that same fundamental insecurity.
It's time for Trash Day Nose Yoga with Hefty. Let's transform stinky scenarios with a joyful scent of Fabuloso. Inhale. You forgot to empty your kid's lunchbox. Exhale. A field of lavender. Inhale. Stinky leftovers. Exhale. Watermelon in the summer. That's the power of Hefty Ultra Strong Trash Bags with Fabuloso.
Hefty, hefty, hefty!
Okay.
All right, Spidey, Dude, any more questions?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Okay.
Will we ever see a true Peter Parker, J. Jonah Jameson confrontation? Will we see it in your title, or do you think we'll see it in another title?
I didn't quite hear you properly. A true Parker, J. Jonah Jameson, what?
Confrontation.
Conversation?
Yeah. Oh, confrontation. I think after the rematch.
Oh, you mean after the reveal? If we do, it's probably going to wind up in Amazing Spider-Man, rather than in the book that I like to call Effin' Spider-Man. It would probably be there because the whole business with Jonah Jameson suing Peter and all that kind of thing started over there. I personally would love to write a real kind of like killer Peter Parker, Jonah Jameson confrontation. I did something like that ages ago in Web of Spider-Man, in which I wrote a story that culminated in this major confrontation between Spider-Man and Jonah Jameson, which it was in a one-off story called Point of View that I was always really pleased about. But it would be kind of cool to do something like that. But like I said, it'll probably happen in Amazing Spider-Man. Although now you've got me interested enough to check with the editors and find out whether or not Joe has something like that planned. Because if he's not, then I'm going to go, can I do it?
All right.
There you go.
How closely do you work with the other two writers? Do you guys work together closely outside of the summits that you guys do, like once a year? Or do you work? No? Okay.
No, not really. We're pretty, I mean, occasionally when things are going to interact, the editors send out each other's scripts, and if there's going to be something coming up that's going to directly impact, we'll check in to find out when it's going to be happening, or what's going to happen directly after that, and then so that we can plan accordingly, that sort of thing. But it's not like we're always on the phone to each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Morbius. How about your questions? Let's hit Peter David up with yours.
Well, I had 4 total, but 2 of them you pretty much already touched on. One of them was about Spider-Man 2099, and now that you've said that you couldn't use him, do you think there's a possibility you'll be able to in the future?
I'm probably not going to at this point, just because he was used so recently in Exiles. And is he still in Exiles at this point?
From what I know, I
yes.
haven't been reading the book.
Because my attitude was I should use him because I think he's a fun character. If he's running around in Exiles, then it's less interesting to me. Not to mention the fact that it's more complicated, because I know perfectly well that the Spider-Man 2099 who's running around in Exiles is not the same one that I was doing, because he came from a different point in a different timeline in a different universe, and therefore it's not the same guy. But if I now have him running around in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man at the same time that he's in Exiles, I think it's just going to confuse the crap out of the reader. So, like I said, well, that's not, that Spider-Man over in Exiles is not the same one who we're using over here. I mean, I got fans who still don't seem to be able to understand the whole future Uncle Ben story line. So I'm sure not going to start bringing in Spidey 2099.
Yeah, I think I was one of the few people that read that issue of Exiles and saw Proteus come out of the virtual unreality machine and said, hey, that was supposed to be the net profit. But
Yep.
Another question I had was, a lot of your stories, and not all of them, obviously, but a lot of your stories seem to be a little bit on the lighthearted side. It seems to be something you really bring to your stories. So I'm wondering what your feelings are on the darker Spider-Man stories, like Sins Past or Spider-Man Reign. I mean, how much do you enjoy those, and do you really feel they have much of a place in Spider-Man?
I think one of the reasons that Spider-Man is such an iconic character, one of the reasons that he works so well, is because you can do stories of any sort with him. You can do straight-up comedy, you can do something deadly serious, and everything in between. And he works within all of those realms because of who he is. So, I haven't read Spider-Man Reign yet. I have the first 2 issues. I have not read them yet. Although, I really should. I've heard very good things about it. But I think that ultimately, he works in whatever format you want to put him in, as long as he remains true to himself.
Reynolds Wrap.
Reynolds Wrap.
Potato wedges.
Wedges.
Olive oil. Salt.
Mwah. Well done, hon.
Well done, chef.
Right.
With Reynolds Wrap, cooking becomes so easy, you can feel like the chef of your kitchen. Easy prep, easy cook, easy clean. Reynolds Wrap.
Right. All right, guys, let's go to the message board. We've got 2 pages worth, Peter. We're about 40 minutes into the show, and
2 pages worth
will
good?
round it out. Some of them.
No, I mean, is that a good amount of questions?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think it'll time out pretty good. The first one is from Venom 65437. He says,
does that mean there's like 65,000 guys named Venom before him? I mean, what's up with that?
Yeah, he had to try a long time on.
I was thinking. I'm just picturing this poor bastard going to go 65436. Oh, Christ. 65437.
Poor guy.
Hot damn! Finally, 5 days in front of my computer, and I finally got a frickin' name.
Oh man.
Okay, go ahead.
Wow. He's going to love that. He's going to be a member of your side, my side for years. Anyway, any chance, he asks, Peter could tell us how he really feels about Peter and Mary Jane being married and not some Joe Q company line. I refuse to believe that every writer, especially one of Peter David's caliber, sees it as a huge problem that just ruins
I've
everything.
actually been on record about this before. I have no problem with it. I mean, again, it comes from the notion of, new and interesting storylines. I mean, hell, back in the day when Peter Parker and Mary Jane got married, I actually wrote the wedding vows for a publicity stunt that was done at Shea Stadium when Spider-Man and Mary Jane got married on the pitcher's mound at Shea Stadium, and Stan Lee officiated. So, and I remember sitting there at Shea Stadium in my nosebleed seats while Spider-Man and Mary Jane got married, and, surrounded by already drunk New Yorkers who were just sitting there going, "What the fill in the blank was this shit?" At any rate.
Wow. That would be a very good Trivial Pursuit question. Who wrote Spider-Man's
Yeah, well, that's a hell of a Trivial Pursuit question. But at any rate, so I've never really had any intrinsic problem, probably because I really like writing dialogue scenes with men and women who are married. I like writing relationship sequences. So I really don't have any intrinsic problem with it. I mean, does it close the door on Peter getting involved with other women? Well, yeah, pretty much. So that tool is no longer in the box. But again, I just don't have an intrinsic problem with it. I really don't. I know it puts me at odds with a number of other writers, and I totally respect their position on it. But my attitude is, yeah, sure, I got no problem with it.
I guess the common complaint on the other side of it is people say it ages the character. You marry him off, you give him a kid, it makes him a little bit older than what's.
And I think that's a perfectly legitimate complaint up until the point where Ultimate Spider-Man is introduced, at which point then I'm going, okay, what the hell's your problem now? We've got Ultimate Spider-Man, we've got Marvel Adventures Spider-Man, so we've essentially got two books in which, three. We've got Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane. Where's Mary Jane loves Spider-Man loves Mary Jane. We have three books out there in which Peter Parker is as much an eternal teenager as Archie Andrews. So if people want to read the adventures of a perpetually teen Peter Parker, sei gesinnt. They now have three books in which they can do so. And considering back in the days of when Amazing Spider-Man was coming out and Peter Parker was a teenager, a senior in high school, there was only one book that they could read in which he was a high schooler. I'd say that we're pretty much ahead of the game. So I don't really quite understand the point of the objection anymore.
Right. All right, Jano-42. Again, you didn't have to try as the previous guy to get that username. He says, I'd like to ask how the idea for The Other came up. Although I'm relatively new to the Spider-Man comics, The Other is one of my favorite stories so far.
Oh, he liked it? It was all me. No.
He loved it.
Honest to God, I have no idea how it came up. And the reason that I don't know how it came up is because I wasn't there when it did. The Other was a storyline that was already pretty far plotted out by the time that I got involved in the project. At the point where they were first working it out, Mark Waid was going to be the one who was writing Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And then Mark bowed off the project for whatever reason, and I was approached on it, and I was told that The Other was part of the mix from the beginning, and I kind of went, okay, whatever. And I was involved from that point on. I then did get involved in some aspects of it. My most significant contribution to the whole thing was the concept of the cannibal spiders who showed up, devoured his skin, and transformed into, essentially his nemesis. Because my attitude was that I wanted something really, really lasting to come out of it other than the stingers, which I still personally think are kind of cool. So that was, that entire development was me. That was my major aspect of the storyline. So anyone who likes that, hey, props to me. Anyone who thought that was the one weak point of the other, that was Joe's idea.
Send your cards to Marvel Comics there. All right, the next one is Tay. I'm going to butcher this name. Tay Chunsa. They said, any word on a regular art team for F and Spider-Man?
Why should F and Spider-Man be different from any other of my freaking books? Todd Nolk is going to be back starting the next issue, which
Good.
I'm. The last issue of the Vulture storyline came out. Yeah, so Todd,
right.
to the best of my knowledge, is the regular penciler for the time being, which I'm perfectly happy with. I thought Scott did a fabulous job on the 3 issues that he was on. On the other hand, I like Todd's work as well. I loved working with Todd when we were doing Young Justice together.
You did a great job with him. How long were you guys on that book? What, 70 issues,
No,
I think?
the series ran, I think, like 46 issues, something like that.
Oh, okay. I overestimated it. Okay. That was a great run. I like what you said in your articles in the past, how, a guy on a book doesn't get as much credit if he's on there for a long time, but if he hops from book to book,
well, that's it. I mean, the fan.
Well,
again,
fair.
that's where we get the fan disconnect between the reality and what the fans say.
Yeah.
I mean, if the marketplace was in line with what the fans said that they wanted to see in a Spider-Man book, Marvel Adventure Spider-Man would be the top-selling book. It would be the top-selling book. It's self-contained stories. It's not bogged down in continuity, and it's Peter Parker when he was, in high school. But it's the lowest-selling book. Why? Because whenever you do books that are for what that are what the fans say they want, the fans regard it as being a kiddie book. Go figure.
Yeah. The second part of his question is, he's talking about JMS leaving Amazing, and would you like to become the regular writer on that title, or would you like to stick
If they
with
offer me
Spider-Man?
Amazing, I'd take it in a heartbeat, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
Okay. Spidey MTV asks,
MTV? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's his.
At least it's not Spidey
actually
MTV 527,
He's actually from Australia, this person.
Oh, well, good day.
On the board. Good day. And he says, ask Peter David how he likes comics as much now, or does he like writing from before with his Hulk run? Can he give us, let's see, is he having more fun now writing older, or as you are now, or when he was a younger writer? Also give us any hints as what he has planned for Spidey in the future, and is MJ going to die?
Boy, there's a lot of stuff.
And good day.
I liked writing comic books when I was younger. I like writing them now. I mean, considering that something like 85% of people in America don't like the job that they're doing, that they do it just to put food on the table, I have been extraordinarily blessed to be doing something that I love for 20 years. And I loved it when I was younger, and I love it now. I think I'm better at it now. I look at stuff that I wrote when I was younger, and I kind of wince because all I can see are the flaws. The stuff that came as a result of lack of experience or lack of ability or what have you.
I think I've heard you tell stories about Incredible Hulk 340 with that Wolverine Hulk issue. Don't you cringe?
I cringe when I read it, and yet people say that it's one of their favorite books. It was that was cited as one of fans' all-time favorites, and I look at it and all I can see are the writing flaws. But that's going to happen. I mean, if you ever reach a point where you are 100% satisfied with the quality of the work that you're turning out, you might as well stop, because if you're not always striving to improve yourself, then really, what's the point? So yeah, like I said, I'm enjoying it as much as I ever did, maybe even a little more now, because if for no other reason, I seem to be suddenly undergoing some sort of bizarre Peter David renaissance. I don't know what's up with that. All I know is that all of a sudden lots of people are asking me to do interviews, including this one. So I mean, hell, just a couple of days ago they interviewed me for Entertainment Weekly, in connection with the Dark Tower thing. My guess is that if I'm anywhere in the interview at all, it'll be kind of like, "It's cool," says Peter David, and that's the whole shooting match from a 20-minute interview. But, you know, what the heck.
I'd still buy 3 copies. That'd be fun. If
but,
and
all right, is MJ going to die? Well, first off, if she were, I sure as hell wouldn't tell you. But all I will do is quote Casado, who has stated, I think, that we have no plans to kill off Mary Jane. I mean, am I correct that Joe has said that?
Yeah, you are.
I haven't seen any lines.
So I see absolutely no reason to gainsay that. I mean, you know, what am I going to say? Oh, well, the editor-in-chief is a liar. No, I think, you know, quite the opposite. To the best of my knowledge, there are still no plans to kill off Mary Jane. Doesn't mean it won't happen. Doesn't mean that Joe might not turn around and say, you know what, screw it, let's kill her. Doesn't mean that there are plans that nobody has mentioned to me, you know, because...
And you know what? You can go back to your previous point. Mary Jane's in 3 other books.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
A teenager. All right, James Dysart asks about Spider-Man. It's called the Superman syndrome. What do you think, Peter, about the constant adding on of powers to characters over time, often in a vain attempt to try to outdo other superheroes, like Superman starting to lift cars and jumping, and now lifting plants and faster than 186,000 miles per second. I guess he's talking about, you know, Spider-Man's new powers after that.
You think? I don't think... Well, the thing is, I would disagree with the way that the question is framed. I don't believe that the powers that were given to Spider-Man as a result of the other were done as an attempt to outdo other superheroes. I mean, you know, think of the other superheroes in the Marvel universe. You know, we got the Fantastic Four, we got the Hulk. We've got all these other guys. Spider-Man is going to pop his stinger, and what's going to happen? Wolverine's going to look at it and go, "Oh, that's cute." I mean, you know, I don't think anyone's going to be outdone by anything like that. If new powers result from, you know, that come from storylines, well, then that's just because the writers thought that it would be really nifty if this happened. I mean, I read the script for the issue of Amazing Spider-Man the first time that the Stingers made their appearance, and now keep in mind that I was a fan long before I was a writer, and my gut reaction the first time that the Stingers made their appearance was, "Wow, that's cool! I can't wait to play with those." I mean, the thing is that I think fans are resistant to change, generally speaking. And I don't, you know, and even if it makes no sense for them to be resistant to the change. For instance, fans were bitching up one side and down the other about the advent of the organic web spinners in the first Spider-Man film, which eventually wound up being picked up in the comic book as well. But first, they were complaining about the movie, and oh my God, he's going to have organic web spinners. Isn't that the most stupid thing you've ever heard? Now, of course, my first reaction was, no, getting spider powers from being bitten by a radioactive spider is the most stupid thing I've ever heard, but that ship has sailed. The next thing that occurred to me was, hello, Spider-Man 2099, organic web shooters did it 13 years ago. What the heck is your problem? You know? So that, you know, so it didn't bother me on that basis. It has always been my firm opinion that if Stan Lee had given Peter Parker organic web shooters in Amazing Fantasy 15, but he didn't have spider sense, and they had given him spider sense in the movie, fans would be in an uproar. Oh my God, he's got some sort of extrasensory perception that enables him to know when bad guys are aiming at him. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. How stupid is that?
He could be a spider meter.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. You know, why does he have an extrasensory perception that doesn't exist in nature? Well, you know what?
Yeah.
It's because he had an Amazing Fantasy 15, and so you're all used to it. And if you had stingers in Amazing Fantasy 15, you'd all be used to it.
Yeah, that's true. All right, next question from Effin' Spiderman is his title. I think he's a fan. He's from Colorado, and he's one of our favorites on the board. He says, how does a writer like Peter develop a sci-fi fantasy hero story with fantasy ideas and fantasy characters, yet still keep it believable and, more importantly, readable?
Because I try to, no matter how out there the fundamental concepts may be, I try to have some degree of grounding in reality. I try to have issues and considerations and problems that have some resonance to an earthly 21st century audience. I'm really not much for doing stories in which a band of intrepid heroes must go trekking across wild, dangerous land in order to get the glowing gem of a Narfinius so that they can stop the evil ruler Trump Lord from destroying the entirety of Mega World. I mean, this is just way too out there for me. It's so far removed from anything that one could possibly relate to on a day-to-day basis that it has no interest to me. No matter what it is that I'm doing, it still has to have some sort of real-world resonance. That's how that's how I keep it real for myself. That's how I keep it real for the readers.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, we're going to ask a couple more questions to keep this at the hour mark. We're going to hit Spidercraft. He says, Peter, obviously you've probably read Kevin Smith's Spider-Man Black Cat miniseries, since you used the new Mysterio and Effin' Spider-Man a while back. So I was wondering, what do you think of the retcon to Black Cat's history, the fact that she was raped being a major factor?
Well, I don't think it was a retcon. I mean, a retcon to me is something very specific, and having a revelation of, oh my God, we didn't know that before, isn't a retcon. It's just story development. As a story development, I have to admit it doesn't do much for me. I mean, what the hell is it that, that not every strong female character, but so many strong female characters seem to have dealt with rape at some point in their life. I mean, why do we have to keep raping all of our female characters? Sue Dibney wasn't just murdered; she was raped and murdered. The Black Cat was raped. Red Sonja was raped. Everybody was freaking raped. And not only was Red Sonja raped, but Red Sonja now, who's the only man that Red Sonja will ever allow to have sex with her? Someone who's able to defeat her in combat. So essentially, she walks around, her era, trying to find someone who can recreate the circumstances of her rape. I mean, good Lord. So I'm not a real big fan of raping all the female characters. As a matter of fact, that's why I did a story element in Future Imperfect where the Hulk is essentially raped, because what the hell? Why not?
Yeah, it's the guy's
Yeah, really.
turn.
And if the Hulk can get raped,
Yeah, no kid. Spidercraft, the second question from him is, what character have you not written in any title that you want to write?
Always wanted to do
Doc Savage.
Always wanted to do Doc Savage.
And teaming up with fans.
No, that's another thing. Somebody once asked me what my dream project was, and my dream project was the Phantom meets Tarzan. Yeah, I would have a field day with the Phantom meets Tarzan. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but man, would that kick ass or what?
Yeah. The Choice doesn't really have a question, but he thinks it's cool you're talking to the fans, so that's a shout-out to you. And Maxa Hiss asks, we can already hit about your original intentions of the book, of Effin' Spider-Man. Where are you looking to take the book, particularly once JMS leaves the flagship title and the Spider marriage controversy is put to rest?
I can't really tell you, for the simple reason that if I do, then it's going to blow various plot elements that I know are coming up. I mean, I can tell you that over the next issues we're going to be we have a 3-parter with Sandman that is going to, in fact, resolve also some of the outstanding questions that people had about the end of the Uncle Ben storyline. I mean, because a lot of people were very confused by the ending of it, which is good because I wanted them to be confused. Some of them drew conclusions that I was kind of stunned that they drew, because I'm going, how could they possibly think that? And just about everybody missed a gargantuan clue that I put in at the end of that issue. I mean, just about everybody. So, you know, I mean, I want to do a storyline. I'm going to be doing a 3-part issue with Sandman that's going to culminate in some revelations and resolutions with the Uncle Ben storyline that's going to have people essentially thudding their heads and going, oh, my God, how could I not have realized that? I'm so stupid. Peter David is God. And after that storyline, I'm then going to be exploring the mystery of and resolving the storyline with Miss Arrow that many people have been wondering about.
Okay. Right. All right, that concludes the questions on the message board. Let's briefly, Peter, talk about some non-spider related titles. I know you have that new book, Writing for
you think my
name?
I read it. It was up on the cover.
That was a huge font. What was that?
Something like that.
Font?
Holy God! I mean, they didn't have you know, headlines about the Titanic sinking that were bigger than that.
Your name sells, I guess.
Either that, or they just had to put something to fill the cover up. So.
Talk a bit about that book. I read that. That was a very good read. I don't have aspirations to be a comic book writer or a writer in general, but that it made me understand reading what the writer generally does to the story.
Oh well, basically that book actually evolved out of discussions with F&W about the notion of doing another But I Digress compilation, and what they were more interested in was my doing something very, very specific, you know, something about writing comic books. And, you know, that's pretty much where it evolved from.
Okay. Also, you've got the Dark Tower comic coming out, and you also have a Midnight Selling.
Yeah, well, essentially, you have to understand that, you know, the street date is Wednesday, as always, you know, the laydown date. And what Marvel decided to do for the first time in their history, from my understanding, was to authorize, you know, the concept of midnight openings. You know, that the stores could be selling the book as of 12:01 Wednesday. And from my understanding, 150 retailers in the country are taking advantage of the midnight openings. In my particular instance, a store called Midtown Comics in Manhattan invited myself and Jay Lee to come and do an appearance at the store for their midnight opening. So that's you know, and they really have no idea what to expect because they've never done anything like this. I'm figuring it's going to be either or. I'm figuring that either it's going to be packed or you're going to be able to hear crickets chirping.
Hopefully it's like I guess they're trying to tie into like
obviously, yeah, that's the inspiration.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to I'll go into the city on Tuesday, and I'll probably go take in a Broadway show because I haven't gone to one in ages, and then I'll go over to Midtown Comics, and then we'll see what we see.
There you go. Also, Future of New Frontier, Star Trek New Frontier. Love that series. What's the future plans?
Well, there are going to be at least 2 more books in the series. At the moment, I'm busy writing a Star Trek The Next Generation novel. So, my first one in quite some time. The name of it is Before Dishonor. And that will be coming out, actually, God knows when that's coming out, either late this year or early next year, after which I will then start working on one of the 2 remaining New Frontier books on my contract. And after I've written those 2, then I guess we see where we stand. There will be a New Frontier novella that will be appearing in an upcoming collection of stories set in the Mirror universe.
Also, I heard on a previous podcast that you were talking about a Hulk Civil War one-shot that you're going to do.
That's right. Well, it's going to be essentially a joining issue that's going to serve to join, you know, that's going to be events that happen between the end of Civil War Hulk, between the end of Planet Hulk and the beginning of the Civil War Hulk. I can't go into too much detail about it because I don't want to blow the ending of Planet Hulk. But it is going to essentially join the 2 and will serve as a means of bringing people up to speed and underscoring the history of the relationships of all the various characters and players.
I have to tell you, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, obviously from the website, but Hulk is my second favorite. It hasn't been the same since he left. I bet you get that a lot, but I can't get into it. I don't like Planet Hulk. I just can't. I didn't like the Bruce Jones.
Well, Planet Hulk has had a lot of fans, though. I mean, it went in a very, very different direction from anything that's really been done. I mean, obviously very inspired by Gladiator. But I think that there's been some fairly interesting stories along the way.
Right. Also, your other book, Fallen Angel. Talk a bit about the future of that.
Very, very rosy, as a matter of fact. IDW is still very happy with it. I'd like to see sales higher, but then there's a shock. We're doing now the thing is, when Fallen Angel first started for DC, there was a lot of mystery as to whether Fallen Angel was actually Linda Danvers. That was put to rest with the first 5 issues of the IDW run, in which I gave a final origin for the Fallen Angel, so we know that she's definitely not Linda Danvers. But I've decided, you know what? It's long enough. We now need to have a character in the book who people think might be Linda Danvers. So she shows up in issue 14 of Fallen Angel, and she gets to Bête Noire in a unique way, we shall say. And that'll be in issues 14 to 16. Then 17 and 18 are going to be a 2-part story in which, for the first time in her publishing history, the Fallen Angel is going to have a crossover in which she will meet up with another character, a character created by somebody else. Who has a separate publishing history from Fallen Angel. I'm not counting Saxon Violence because I created them along with George Perez. But it will be a 2-parter, and the creator of the other character will be heavily involved with the 2-parter. And he will be doing covers and will be drawing half of the first story.
So it's Todd
no
McFarlane,
comment,
right? I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to be specific as to who it is.
Okay. Also, one other question about Fallen Angel. Does DC have any other plans to trade paperback? I think they did the first. Don't they have 2 trade paperbacks?
No, DC recently came out with a trade paperback that collects issues 6 to 12. Although they have not stated as such, it would not surprise me in the least if they wind up doing another trade that collects the balance of the DC series. It may be that Fallen Angel actually sets a record for a period of time between trade paperback collections. It may indeed be the first. It's probably the first character in history to have a trade collection done of stories. Of stories after the character's already gone off to another publisher.
Well, there you go. Also, I Amazoned, did a search of your name on Amazon. I found out The Darkness of the Light book by Tor.
That's the first.
Talk a bit about that.
That is the first book in the Hidden Earth series that Tor is going to be publishing. It's nice to know that an Amazon search kicks it up. It's set in a. Actually, it's interesting considering one of the earlier questions I got. It is sort of a combination of fantasy and science fiction, set in an Earth of the future where the Earth has been overrun by what we would term mythological beings who have essentially hunted humanity close to extermination and are now involved in hunting each other into extermination.
That sounds good.
I'm going to look pretty nifty myself.
Book too. Yeah. All right, I'm wrapping it up. Before we go, Peter, any exclusives or anything you want to share with us?
I don't know, because I just did a podcast yesterday that I did exclusives on. So
yeah,
pretty much. And the simple problem is that nothing's happened between Friday and today. It's not like I got a phone call from someone saying, "Hey, you want to do this?" On Saturday. Let's see. No, I can't talk about that because it's under non-disclosure. I will say that I have been speaking to folks at Marvel about possibly picking up a new series, but I really can't. One that I think that if I wind up on this series, people will go, "Oh my God, he's the perfect fit for that." So, you know, I mean, because there are series that I could see myself picking up and people will go, oh, my God, why is Peter David writing that? But this would probably be a good fit. But like I said, I can't really go into detail. I wish I could, but I can't.